Welcome to Java and thank you kindly for joining. It's October 24th, 2025. It is also Friday. So, as we are heading into today, expecting CPI, it looks like it is setting up to be a very volatile end of day as we're heading into a Fed week. And in particular, investors don't like holding into a weekend where then there is so much uncertainty. So, we are in day 24 of United States government shutdown, which is beginning to rest on tempers. So we'll take a look at the effects of that as well. But for now, let's get into what's going on in the market. Fear greed sitting at 28, and not extreme fear, but what kind of holding up, as I said, in a consolidating type of area right now. So no major moves yet, and it's kind of gaining strength. Which direction it goes will be determined later. We've got the 10-year yield up as well as relative strength of the dollar. So these kind of going against one another is going to show a little bit more of a grind out. We've got Bitcoin above 109,000. As long as it holds here, could be okay. Otherwise, we've got a little bit more weakness in the cryptocurrency could show up here. But at the moment, they're holding quite well. We've got the United States market. It's kind of marginal at the moment. Went into the close yesterday quite well, actually, with the volatility down and gold up. Now, futures this morning show kind of the same, up slightly, and gold and silver taking a bit of a hit. Now, gold, if we're watching it to see if it will hold 4,000 level, that's very strong support there. And with silver at just above 47.80 is strong support there. We're still watching the divergences with crude oil because of the Russia sanctions. So holding above 61 for crude. The daily driver really for all of this fear and what everybody's looking for, which kind of doesn't make sense in a logical perspective, is the CPI. Now, everybody knows inflation is going to continue. Everybody knows the Fed is going to cut no matter what, unless it is an extreme number. So, with all of this, it's kind of an interesting dynamic right now. We've got a lot more geopolitical going on below the surface that I think will be the larger movers, in particular if a large headline comes out. So, White House announcing that Trump will meet Xi on October 30th. So there could be a little bit of movement there if that doesn't go sour prior to it. Now, on the other hand, he has stated that he has ended negotiations with Canada over some advertisements that they were doing. So he didn't like that, but now there's no more negotiations going on with them. We've also got, of course, the wars going on. We'll talk a little more about that. But we have this article coming out, cracks now showing up in credit markets, and here's how investors should view them. They should view them as cracks and understand these are yellow flag warnings, yellow flag to red flag, depending on the size. We've got Coinbase, the cryptocurrency trading platform. The CEO is very bullish on getting key cryptocurrency legislation passed by the end of the year. Now, this statement is a little frightening if you really understand. He said we're 90% there. There are dates coming out in November to where they've got all of this key. They want to get this put through. That is a shift, massive shift onto the new system. So not to cause fear, there's going to be some opportunities, but that is going to be when things pretty much cross over, at least in the back end. Now, for the calendar today, as I said, most of these reports, they're only calculating the CPI in order to calculate the cost of living allowance off of an inflationary number that is not going to be accurate. So that's government for you. We've also got PMI coming out, and we'll see if any of these have an effect. I don't expect they will. We'll see going forward. So, for some specifics, we've got Newmont. Newmont is one of the larger gold miners in the United States, even though they're not a US company. Their stock slid on third quarter earnings, which almost seems impossible for this miner. However, their stock is going down, could be presenting opportunity. Ford was also in the news. They're up this morning. They halted production of their F-150 Lightning EV. Now, this is saying it's due to aluminum shortages, but really, behind the scenes, that was one of their largest losses they've had in a very long time. So they're going to be focusing back on regular gasoline and also hybrid trucks. Hybrid is where the bulk of the market interest is. Not quite full electric. Nobody wants to be stranded, so hybrid is the way to go, and that's what the CEO said this morning. We've got General Dynamics, if you're not familiar with them, war stocks, so they're gearing up for their third quarter print. I would generally expect that this would be good with all of the war spending and what's been going on. However, if they haven't been watching their books very well, they could surprise. We've got Target is a big story this morning. And it's not just because they're cutting a large amount of jobs, but it's because they're cutting a large amount of their upper tier, more white collar jobs. And they have no intention of bringing these jobs back. So it's not just that they are looking at going to artificial intelligence, but rather they're going through a major restructuring of the corporation in order to survive the coming downturns. So that should be an eye catcher. We also had Applied Materials cutting staff. They're trying to stay ahead of this artificial intelligence race as well. So we're going to see more of these, more corporations just trying to kind of adjust, if you will, and they're either going to adjust or go out, foreclose, or be merged or bought. Now, speaking of this is the banks. Now we've got gold price already popping back up and JP Morgan saying it could hit $6,000. Now let's speak about assets as far as the businesses. We have two banks, Santander's large bank, 55 million debt exposure to First Brands. Now, First Brands is an auto parts company and they got hit with bankruptcy. So, with this bankruptcy, apparently these two banks were the two larger holders. First Citizens really got hit hard. Santander's little larger could absorb this. However, the point is that we're going to see more of these. And with the bankruptcies, this will expose which banks are open on their debt that they're going to be heavily affected by. So, last couple of things I want to bring up before letting you go out to the market in a weekend. The United States Energy Secretary is talking about faster direct grid access connection for artificial intelligence and cryptocurrency miners. So, looking at bending the rules, changing the legislation, saying this could be done within the next 3 months to where they're prioritizing these data centers and Bitcoin mining. And it wasn't long ago where they were crying about how much energy Bitcoin took. However, we got a massive shift to where now consumer is not the priority, but rather these two. So just wanted to bring that up, as well as in Argentina. The deal that was made is including beef. Now, it's not so much that the story about Argentina with the beef, it's the underlying story here that there is a massive, difficult decision here. And that decision is to kind of go back on the policies and support the farmers between what they're doing as far as their trade, or try to do some of these external deals to where you bring the prices down for the consumers. So you're kind of caught between the consumers and some of the corporations, and I expect this to increase more. I know that in this case it's with the farmers and this is going to trickle out. So this is a very difficult decision here because at the moment the prices are not sustainable for what we're having is a lower class of America that won't be able to afford these at all. So it's very, very catch 22. There's no really clear winning strategy here that everyone will be happy with. So with this, We've also got geopolitical, just a reminder of the wars going on. The negotiations could really throw anything happening as far as these markets into the weekend, into next. So be cautious with this. But Vice President Vance lashing out because Israel voted to annex a good portion of the West Bank, and that is just apparently going to anger quite a few people. So he's lashing back at that. They're trying to get this ceasefire, which has gone off the rails, back in. So the point of all of this is there's a lot of volatility, and with all of this uncertainty that's happening between the markets and in the geopolitical arena, a lot of I expect a lot of the big money doesn't like holding through these periods of time when so much can happen in a weekend. So I expect a bit more sell off, at least toward the end of the day, if it doesn't start midday. Now, not financial advice, but in general, historically, that's what happens. So look for weakness toward the end of the day. And I would not be one to hold through that. So if you're going to sell, consider selling into the strength. With that, I wish you all a wonderful day, wonderful weekend. Until I see you again, resist.